Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. A little bit different format for the video today, as we're going to be going on a very cool tour of an actual real-life nuclear launch facility. I don't want to fill you up on too much information here on the outset that you're going to be getting momentarily, so we'll just get straight into it. Oh, and if you're not yet a subscriber,
do not subscribe. The United States government does not want you to subscribe here.
My name is Mickey. We are here at Oscar Zero, 4 miles north of Cooperstown. We were a missile alert facility, part of the 321st Missile Wing, based out of Grand Forks Air Force Base. The missile wing was broken down into 3 squadrons, the 446, the 447th, and the 448th. Each squadron was broken down into 5 flights, and each flight was responsible for 10 missiles. So in an area the size a little bit bigger than the state of New Jersey, there were 150 missiles that could have been launched towards Russia. Each missile wing had 150 missiles total.
Okay.
So we were the last missile wing built from 64 to 66 out of these in the central to northern plains. So at the time, we were the most advanced structurally and technology-wise. Then, in 1997, pursuant to the peace treaty signed in 1991, there were 3 missile wings who were deactivated. The one near Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, the one near Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota, and Grand Forks Air Force Base. Today there are 3 active missile wings. The one near Cheyenne, Wyoming, which also encompasses Nebraska and Colorado, Minot Air Force Base, which is northwest of here, and Malmstrom Air Force Base near Ellsworth, Great Falls, Montana. Between these 3 active bases, there are about 400 missiles that could be launched today.
Oh, wow.
At the time when both missile bases in North Dakota were active, we who lived here always joked around we could have become our own country.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Because we had the 3rd largest amount of nuclear power within our boundaries behind the U.S. and Russia.
Right.
And I like to add in we could have made South Dakota change their name.
I heard that's at the peak for North Dakota. It was some like 1,600 warheads in the state alone.
Yeah,
now they
because
weren't
the Minuteman 3s had 3 warheads on each missile.
Okay.
So you think what 150 times 3 is 450.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of war power. In Minot Air Force Base, it came out just this past January, they're going to be building all new silos and new buildings like this, like with 2 stories. So that like the sleeping quarters, that they're, quieter upstairs. Because here, when you get down to the sleeping quarters, there'd be people talking and hard for them to sleep. Okay. So the land for the building sites and the missile sites were purchased from local landowners. If the landowners declined to sell, the land was taken by eminent domain anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And when the area was deactivated, the land was offered back to landowners for purchase. If they declined to buy it back, then it was opened up for public bid.
Oh, sure.
So all of these sites, each star is a building, just like this one, are being used for different purposes. Oscar Zero was kept intact for the express purpose of it becoming an historic site, in which we opened up as such in 2009.
Okay.
Some of these other buildings, like Hotel Zero, the elevators were sunk about halfway down, shafts filled with cement, so there's no way to get down below in these other buildings.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, anybody who bought in these other sites signed an agreement not to dig below ground.
Okay.
And even, you'd spend the rest of their life chipping out cement anyway. So Hotel Zero was purchased by a family from Ohio, and they've made it into their summer home.
Oh, cool.
And I think Ohio, North Dakota, I don't know.
Yeah.
India Zero, a guy has purchased it to make it into a home for after he retires. Here at Juliet Zero, a family from Hawaii has purchased it. They have an ammo reloading business in Hawaii, but they come over for a few months in the summer over here to do their ammo business because it's cheaper to ship within the continental United States instead of shipping over from Hawaii.
Oh, sure.
In Foxtrot Zero, the garage is being used as a sheep shed. And here at Nakoma Zero, the building was converted into a vehicle repair shop.
Okay.
All the other buildings like this have either fallen into disrepair or being used as general storage. The missile sites themselves, the missiles were removed and transferred to Malmstrom Air Force Base, so they went from Minuteman IIs to Minuteman IIIs. The silos themselves were imploded, the caps were left open, Russian satellites would fly over to take pictures so we could prove did what we were supposed to do.
Okay, that's part of the treaty.
Right,
Yeah.
plus there were Russian inspectors on the ground, and we were doing the same thing over there.
Interesting. I did not know that. Yeah.
There's one silo they did not implode. It's November 33, straight east on Cooperstown on Highway 200.
So each of these numbers represent different silos?
Yes,
Okay.
like Oscar 0, we had 41 through 50. November would have had 31 through 40.
What's crazy how much you drive past and you don't even realize.
Yeah. So if you see a square of fencing out in the middle of a field, that would have been a former missile site.
Sure.
Okay. The one missile site they did not implode. They filled the shaft with sand and gravel, welded the blast door shut, and that is part of this historic site. You can go out there at any time you like. It's self-guided. It's always open, and there's signage out there for you to take a look at. Topside here housed the support staff. There were 8 persons. Facilities manager, the cook, and 2 security squads. 2 security squads of 3 persons each. So those 8 people would serve 3 days here, 3 days back at the base, 1 day for debriefing, 1 day for training, 1 day personal. Back here for 3 days, back and forth.
Okay.
The missileers, of which there were 2, they would be downstairs for 24 hours.
Okay.
3 days back at the base, 24 hours, again back and forth. Most of the crews would come back to the same sites. On occasion, they might be assigned elsewhere, but all the buildings were laid out the same, so there was nothing new to learn.
Okay.
And some of these missile sites now are being used for different purposes also.
Sure.
Farmers might store farm equipment inside the structure, or the fence, or hay bales. We also had a lot of beekeeper traffic that comes up from like Texas, so you might see beehives inside some of these fence structures.
Interesting.
And each missile or facility was connected to its missiles and to the other buildings within its squadron by way of this cabling system, hardened intersite cable system, or HICS, buried about 10 feet below ground. Most of the cabling has been pulled up. There's a guy near the Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri is selling 6-inch chunks of this on eBay for $34.95 as a memento.
Wow.
And I looked just a few weeks ago and he still got his site up.
Wonder how many's actually sold.
I'm not sure. I think it said something on there how many sold or how many are left. But especially the old missileers.
That is pretty bulky. I mean, yeah.
Think of all that copper wiring.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Any questions?
Not yet. I'm sure I'll come up with,
Okay.
with a few as we go along.
Okay. So this room is the only room that was drastically changed from its original purpose. It used to be the workout or weight room. And the only memento we have of that is a list of rules on the door on both sides. Don't leave things laying about, and always use a spotter. Typical gym rules.
Yeah.
So past this point, everything is considered an historical artifact, and we'd appreciate it if you don't touch or lean on anything.
Gotcha.
So imagine you're a 22-year-old kid from Florida. Look out the window in January. Snow, 20 below. Of course, this
Right.
winter was kind of different. We didn't have any snow, and we had only 2 weeks of 10 below.
Yeah.
So a lot of boredom and low morale grew out of that because, for one thing, anybody in the Air Force never ever asked to be assigned to North Dakota.
Yeah, I
and
suppose
especially
not.
stuck out here in the middle of nowhere.
I suppose not.
To help with that situation, the Air Force upgraded all their facilities to make them more home-like and give everybody more things to do. The walls used to be seafoam green in color. The floors were white tiled. As you can see, they've got the wallpaper, wainscoting, nicer window coverings, carpeted on the floor. This used to be the garage. They converted it into the rec room, the pool table, ping pong foosball. They had a library of books and magazines, and they would share these materials throughout the whole flight and also bring in fresh materials.
Okay.
It was in the late 70s, early 80s, excuse me, before women were allowed to serve on site and then topside only. And it was the late 80s into the 90s when women could serve below as missileers. Of course, when the structure was built in the 60s, geared toward men, one bathroom. So when women were on site, they had to share the bathroom and just turn a sign around so you would know which gender was in there. Then the Air Force chopped off part of a utility room, made it into a ladies' restroom. And also between the ladies' room and the men's room today, there's a utility room, another maintenance utility room, that shows the original wall color in the white tile floors.
Okay. I see you even have some of the older magazines there.
You bet. All this was from at least 97 or earlier.
Yeah. Interesting.
This used to be the rec room, flowed on straight toward the kitchen. The Air Force put this L-shaped wall in to create a cozy living room area with some comfy furniture. They could talk or visit with each other, play games. They could also watch TV. Originally, a couple scratchy antenna channels out of Fargo or Winnipeg. They did eventually get satellite dish, which is still on site. And you can roam around the grounds after you, so you like.
Sure.
But even then, antenna or satellite, all the channels were tuned in one station. If they wanted to watch something different, they had to talk to the security control commander and beg. Okay. It's not like today if you've got 7 TVs in your house, you can be watching 7 different things.
Right.
They had a computer station over there, not connected to the internet, but they could play games.
For safety issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you think of what's in your back pocket in your cell phone, how much more it can do than that system ever could.
Absolutely.
Telephone booth here. They could make 10-minute phone calls to family or friends. They had to be careful about saying anything about where they were, what they were doing. This was a top secret military installation. Those of us who lived around here, we knew what was going on, and you know the Russians did too. But the less the personnel said, the better off they were.
Right. Were the phone calls recorded then at all?
They were monitored.
Monitored?
Monitored.
I suppose, yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I think so.
The dining hall. Most of their meals were tinfoil packs that the cooks would put in the oven. They could pick by number which meal they wanted. And I guess most of the meals are pretty tasty. Some maybe not so. Everybody depends on their taste buds. On occasion, the cooks would cook up fresh food, like say bacon and eggs for breakfast. I guess they also, toward the latter years, would serve up a turkey dinner for Thanksgiving.
So the people that went actually down below into the concrete egg-shaped structure, would they get their food up here then for the day and take it down there then?
Yeah.
Okay. That's one thing I kind of wondered what they ate when they were down there and how long they were actually down there.
I think they also would probably bring in other outside food because, you know, we'd be in town and, you know, at the grocery store and you'd see the guys in their fatigues, you know, picking up food before and after.
Okay. Are you from the area then?
I've lived in the area since '82. I
Okay.
taught in a little town near here and then I married into the community and I'm stuck forever.
Yeah. So you're actually here when they were still,
Yes.
so you were still going.
Yeah.
So you would see them around town sometimes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, for definitely.
Yeah.
The ladies' restroom shower room that they carved out of a utility room.
Okay, this was added afterwards.
Yeah, there's a utility room on the backside, and I think they chopped off that to make this.
Sure.
And this is a utility room that shows the wall color in the tile floors.
So that's the original then.
Yeah. Imagine looking for those wall colors.
Yeah, that's basic military, like, you know.
And you can just roam about in the kitchen and take your pictures. And there's some signage there in case you want to record that.
Warriors of the North. Is that the...
That's their logo
That's the logo for the site?
for Grand Forks Air Force Base.
Oh, sure.
There's a little bit more I'll talk about when we're downstairs.
Yeah. Cool.
Laundry chute, all laundry was taken back to the base for cleaning, washing. Also, all garbage was taken back.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I suppose for security reasons.
For, yeah, dispose of anything that might be sensitive information.
In the men's room. Yep. This was the cook's bedroom. Most of the time here she had it to herself, and sometimes there might be an assistant cook or a cook trainee.
I love the old style couch there. Doesn't look like it'd be too comfortable.
I call it commodity furniture.
There you go.
Just a security bedroom, that's another bedroom. This is a security bedroom. And you can go into there.
So these signs were up originally. What do the numbers signify?
It signifies that there would have been weapons in this room.
Oh, okay.
That's where they would have. And those are replicas.
Replica M16s. Yeah.
I don't know weapons, I just know they're replicas.
Yeah.
I'm not big on firearms, so. I just know my husband has rifles for deer hunting, and I ask him 20 times, are you sure it's unloaded?
Oh, they even have a PA system
Yep,
too.
that was run through the security control center. This is a bedroom for remain overnight. If security or maintenance crews or other visitors would have been in the area, then they will be able to make it back to the base, maybe because the storm was so late, they would bunk here. We've also been told that some cooks are better than others. So say a security squad, they might call around to see who was cooking where and pick
sure.
that facility to stay at.
Okay. And they got the alarm light here too, even.
Yep, that's also run through the security control center.
Now, when they're on the site here, would they do many like drills and stuff as far as like?
I had one guy on tour, maybe about a month ago, that he was like a vehicle maintenance guy, and he'd be over here like eating, and he would all of a sudden start to notice a little bit of movement, and he would get out of here because he knows that if you were in the building where they were doing some training, you were like a hostage
Oh,
or
sure.
a prisoner, so he wanted to get
Yep.
out of here because
Yep.
you might be on the ground for a couple hours.
Okay.
Linen closet for the facility, or supply closet, I guess you could say.
Oh, you got an old style shop vac too.
Yep. Can you imagine what money we could have made selling old toilet paper?
Yeah.
I feel some of the problem with the toilet paper hoarding were the stores. Did they have
Yeah.
to let people out with their carts full of toilet paper? They could have said, I'm sorry, you can only take blah, blah,
Early on,
blah.
they definitely could have.
Yeah.
Yeah. They definitely could have helped out with that.
Yep.
Of course, you know, for some of those places, it's kind of like you make the money. You know, if they're making money, they're not going to shirk it. It's just like, you know, if it's off the shelves, oh, we sold out. That's all the money we made.
Yeah.
You know, but causes more problems.
And this was the facility manager bedroom.
Okay, this is the facility manager bedroom. All right.
So he or she had room to him or herself.
And different schematics and plans.
Yep.
So long have you been doing the tours for?
This is my second season.
Oh, sure.
Last year was my first one.
Okay.
I wasn't worried about being on stage part, so to speak. It was the knowing everything. So I went on like 15 tours my first week
Yeah.
with the different tour guides.
I bet the first couple you got kind of anxious.
A little bit. I was more worried about forgetting stuff.
Yeah.
So when the site was active, this was the original entryway. They would have known from Grand Forks who was coming down. So once you would have been all past the gate onto the grounds and into the building, you had entered the security control center, passing your paperwork and ID in through the slot in the door. Once it was determined you were who you said you were, you would have had a weapon with you for security reasons. You had to unload the weapon. That's the panel system for the alarms. Yeah.
Okay.
As I was saying, you would have had a weapon with you and you had to unload your weapon. To prove it was unloaded, you had to shoot it into the barrel. If you heard a click click, everything was hunky-dory. If there was a bang bang, you were in big hairy trouble and you got sent back to the base. Excuse me, and then a different crew would have been sent down.
A whole different crew.
A whole different crew.
Oof.
And while you were doing your paperwork out there. And that could mean of a delay of at least 3 hours till the missileers downstairs below would have been relieved on shift.
Mm.
So this was the security control center. There were the two security squads, the night shift and the day shift. The commander would sit here, and the two personnel would have been sent out to a missile. Say the missileers below had received a motion or a vibration alert in one of the missile silos. They would be sent out. They would have to check to see what might have caused the motion. Might have been a bunny or rabbit hopping around, a deer leaping by, a leaf blowing in the wind, a rainstorm, occasional mischievous teenager throwing pop bottles over the fence saying, let's get the Air Force out here.
If some teenagers would get caught doing that, what would they?
They would probably just have the crap scared off.
Try to scare them
Yeah.
straight type of thing.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And to indicate how serious they were about security at the silos, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law live 9 miles west of town, right on 200, and there are 2 missile sites between town and their farm. One year, one of our cousins from California was visiting, staying out at the farm, and almost on a daily basis, he would bicycle into Cooperstown and then bicycle back to the farm. One day on the way back to the farm, he decided to stop and see what one of these sites was. Well, there apparently was extra security, so in addition to security from here, there was also an extra armored car and a helicopter flying overhead.
Wow.
Because he had breached the area.
Wow.
So we all knew who lived around here. You didn't stop at those sites, but he certainly found out that no, you do not.
Huh.
The TV, this is where the remote control was, so if you wanted to watch something different, talk to the security commander. Security also was responsible for stopping anybody coming down the access road, sending them on their way. Anybody having car problems stopped alongside the road, or maybe during the winter slid off the road, security would be out there again telling them to get on their way. And of course, back then, nobody had one of these in their pockets.
Yeah, the cell phone, right?
So security would sometimes have to come in and call for help or a tow truck for vehicles. Also in the winter, if storms or bad roads would cause a delay of crews coming down, they would helicopter them in. And we do have a helipad right over there. You might have to lift up.
Past the fence out there?
Yep, on the other side of the fence. Yep.
Okay.
Didn't happen very often, but that was always the option.
Yeah.
Any questions?
What's the metal grating here?
There's like cabling, etc. under here.
Oh,
so
okay.
instead, they just left that in place instead of carpeting over. It's easier to lift up these plates and
Change it out
rip it
there
out.
to check anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense because there was a big electrical boxes right on the other side there.
You know,
Okay.
and that's a weather station. Parts are broken on it or don't work, and it's such an old unit that there's no replacement parts for it.
You know, when I was driving up here, I saw a a weather radar station not that far away, and now I thought about it, I was like, what is it doing here? Like, there's no, you know, airport
You
nearby.
look like west of
but
here
I think
by
it was like
Finley?
east. Yeah, yes, by Finley.
East.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that was an Air Force Raider base. They had a base. They had a housing out there and everything.
Sure.
Back in, I guess it was before I was around here, I think. But they still have a radar in there. It's just you know, just maintained now by 1 or 2 people. It's not like where there's a whole base.
Right.
So
yeah, I saw that. And I kind of was like, well, that's kind of like out in the middle of nowhere. There's no airport nearby, but I figured it might have something to do with like a military application. But yeah.
So we have been cleared up here. To get downstairs, we have to call the missileers and give a code. If we give the code incorrectly, or the security commander thinks there's something off about us that day, another reason for it to be sent back to the base. And then a different crew coming down.
Okay.
Oh, before you go downstairs, there's these 2 structures on the south lawn here. We call them mushrooms. They've got the brown bases with the cream caps. The one on my right is the air intake for downstairs, and the one over here on my left is the air exhaust coming from back downstairs.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have been cleared to go downstairs. Some artwork done by personnel. Kind of bring the elevator back up. I'm not sure I can do it physically, but mentally for sure I would not be able to take that first step going down. Heights are not my friend.
Yeah. Some people don't care for too much.
You know, anytime some people are kind of claustrophobic, they couldn't even go on the elevator, and it's a roomy elevator.
How many feet down is it? Like 50?
About 50 feet. And that's not as long a distance as you think it is by the elevator. The elevator was built to hold up to 9,000 pounds. A lot of heavy equipment, they would have been moving down and up. In fact, all the equipment down below was brought in by way of the elevator. And for that very reason, it moves very slowly. Takes a minute, 45 seconds to go 50 feet. And as we go down, it feels like the walls are moving or not. There, you will see writing on the wall. At the end of tours for like maintenance and security on their last shift through here, they would sign and date the walls. And even though we were shut down in '97, this building was being kept intact, plus the whole deactivation took like a couple years. The last maintenance or security
the steel looks like on the inside of it. So if you see the inside of the bridge even, there's a lot of steel that goes into like something simple like that.
So this is a diorama that depicts about 4 aspects of a missile wing. We are down below this building 50 feet between these 2 capsules. This capsule is the launch control one, and that's that one. And this is the equipment building capsule. That's that one. We'll visit that one first.
Oh, this is pretty cool.
And over here, it's showing a missile being downloaded into a silo. Excuse me. And then a missile over here is having the warhead attached. The warheads and the missiles were not transported together. They were transported separately. Each missile also had its own equipment building capsule. It was not manned, just available for maintenance, etc.
Okay.
And in the back, the bombers depict Grand Forks Air Force Base, which is really close, 30 miles away. And because we're so close to Grand Forks, and relatively speaking close to Minot Air Force Base, after 9/11, they were sending these bombers out on recon missions. And we'd be sitting in our living rooms, and you hear the bombers. They fly low, and slow, and they're loud. So as I said, we hear these bombers going overhead, and we get pretty nervous. We didn't know what was going on.
They can be pretty loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the missile or launch work facilities, not this flight, but they have like a domino sign, like, delivery within 30
I've seen that one, yeah.
This is a blast door, about 4 feet thick, weighs about 13 tons. To open it, you have to pump this handle by hand over 100 times. Similar mechanism on the other side of the door. That extracts and extends the pins into these holes here. This is where the door would sit. The blast doors were always closed. When the missileers would come on duty for the shift, they first had to check this equipment over here.
Okay.
So they would open the door, close the door, check the equipment, open the door, close the door, all before they go over to the other room, capsuling.
You've got spots for different flashlights to be stored, easy access to.
Yep,
Hearing protection.
yep, this was very noisy. They had to have noise canceling.
Was this generator running all the time then to power? Or was it just basically
No,
emergency?
it was powered by electricity. Electricity was provided by local
Right.
companies. The generator was in case of emergency.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So these capsules are made of 4 feet thick concrete. They were formed on site. They were not pre-formed and brought in. It would have been too heavy. As you can see, the metal skins welded together, rebar placed around that, then the cement was poured.
Right.
And even though it's been almost 50 years, the cement probably is most likely still curing.
Yeah, actually, I've worked as a civil engineer, and technically, concrete never stops curing. It just becomes so infinitesimal that you can hardly actually read it. Now, with that curing, it actually becomes more brittle, so it's going to crack more. Too,
Yeah.
with the aging process.
And I tell people if they ever visit like Hoover Dam or Garrison Dam in the western part of the state, that same thing, and their structures are far bigger and older than we are.
It's still gaining strength.
Yeah. And I also tell them about the sidewalk. Well, sidewalk, always still curing.
Yep, absolutely.
Which I did not know that part until I was told by somebody on the tour.
Yeah. Now the floor part here, I see that there's a gap at the bottom.
Yeah, the floor is free floating, attached to the capsule by way of these shock isolators, two here and two at the other end of the capsule. That way, if there would have been a blast nearby causing seismic activity in the ground, the floor would have swayed like a giant porch swing, a little more violently than on your front porch. But that would have protected all the equipment here, and that equipment runs all the equipment in the other capsule. So this is the diesel generator. There's a 14,000 plus diesel fuel tank buried on the other side of the fence that would have allowed the generator to run for 6 to 8 weeks after a blast and presumed power outage. Also, there's a diesel day tank there that would have had enough diesel fuel in it to run the generator, say, summer, winter storm, kicks off the power, it would have run the generator.
Sure.
Okay? And they would have run the generator in regular maintenance checks also. And you can step inside the generator case if you so choose, just be careful. Over here, we're talking about the mushrooms upstairs. This is the intake. The end of the generator case is the exhaust fan. And that would control how much air would be getting in and out.
Interesting. Now you said for the diesel fuel tank outside, you said that was how many gallons was that?
14,000 plus, it says on there, 14,300 gallons.
Okay. Now for all that fuel, I don't imagine it'd actually be burning through it because they wouldn't be running the generator that often.
No.
Would they ever change that fuel out? Or what would they do there?
I do not know that.
Yeah. Its fuel kind of gets, as it ages, gets old, it kind of becomes less combustible. Yeah.
Brine chiller unit here would be sent, the chill brine would be sent through the other capsule, keeping all that equipment cooled down over there. And if this would have failed, they would have had about 2 minutes to shut everything down before it would have gotten too hot and caught fire.
Oh, this is for keeping the equipment cool, basically?
A lot of computer equipment, etc., in the other capsule.
Oh, sure.
Probably going to have to pause and wait till they get through. That's fine. This is another glass door. Again, 4 feet thick, but weighs only about 9 tons. And it can be opened only from the inside for security reasons.
Right.
Anybody coming past this door had to have permission from Red Force before the people inside would open the door. Also, past this point, they call it a no-loan zone. There always had to be 2 people in this capsule for accountability reasons, and so that no one person could cause problems unless they're in cahoots with each other. Then look out. And as you go through, duck down the entire way.
Next thing.
Pretty sure you don't want to hit it.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I think I would have bumped into that.
I'm waiting for me to forget.
That's 5 feet tall?
I'm
Maybe.
5'4", so
Probably closer to 4 then.
a couple times last year we tell people to duck down and 10 seconds later, bonk. Over here on your left, luxurious bathroom facilities. Notice the double vanity and separate tub and shower units. Because that's what HGTV tells us we need in our bathrooms.
A little bit snug in here.
Yeah, comparable to an RV or an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Before women were starting to serve down here, they had just a curtain for privacy. Of course, with women down there, they had to, make that a little more sturdy. Over here, a little kitchenette unit. The missileers would bring down their food and beverages for their shift. Microwave had to be strapped down so that wouldn't be thrown about. They could call up to the cook and order fresh food, and the cook would be allowed to bring it again with permission from Grand Forks, and as long as anything classified would have been covered up. This floor is also free floating, again, attached with the same shock isolators here and at the other end of the capsule. And these are towers of equipment related to their communications for the satellite, radio, telephone, and computer.
Each one of these weighs 52 pounds? Oh, no,
Well, that one weighs
one's
80.
80.
And they
Okay.
put the weight on the drawers
Okay.
so that maintenance people coming in, when they pulled the drawer, they would expect it to be heavy.
Oh,
They say,
sure.
it's only going to be 10 pounds, and you drop the thing on your foot, you might as well kiss your foot goodbye.
Because they vary in their weight, too.
Yep.
You don't expect it to weigh half as much.
Right. And watch the rails on the floor and the thermostats on your left up by your head. This is the deputy commander station. That's the commander station. Somebody always had to be sitting at the deputy commander station. This was where most of the communications would have been sent first. For instance, if there was some motion detected number 43, lights would light up, missileers would call up to the security commander. He or she would have then sent security out to the missile silo to see what was going on. Once they had cleared the site and been cleared to come back, if there was motion detected again at the same site, would have to go back, get out of their vehicle to see what was going on. Which would be fine on a nice summer day. Middle of January, not so much fun.
Yeah, North Dakota, where 6 months of the year is winter.
Right.
Yeah.
And occasionally the missileers might be feeling a bit prankish, so they might send the security guards, oh, you guys better go back out there.
Go double check.
Right.
Yeah.
So if the president had ordered a launch because the U.S. was being attacked, the orders would have gone down to Strategic Air Command in Omaha first, and since and there were other couple entities that were in charge of the missile program, like the Space Agency. An alert, then the orders would have gone to Grand Forks Air Force Base, and down here they would have heard an alert like this. Okay. If they weren't at their stations, they would immediately go there. Then they receive a code from Grand Forks, write the code down, and compare it. If it differed in any way because somebody had misheard or miswrote, they had to confirm with Grand Forks what the code was. Once that was all checked and okayed, then they had to call another unit just like this to see if they had received the same information and message. That was for to know it was not a hoax and part of the many checks and balances throughout this whole process. Once that was all confirmed, they had several things they had to do, go through this binder checklist. Then they would get into the lockbox. Each missileer had his or her own combination. You knew your combination, I knew mine, we did not know each other's. If I'm going off shift, I'm taking my lock with me, you're coming on, you're putting your lock on. So we get the lockbox open, and inside is a packet of information, more procedure codes, more procedure checklist codes, and 2 keys. One key goes over there, and the other key goes over here. As you can see, no one person can turn both keys at the same time. They have to be turned within 1.2 seconds of each other and held in place for 2 seconds before launch would occur. Also, at the same time, the other unit we've already been in contact with, they are turning their keys also at the same time. So in reality, there were 4 turns of keys before launch would occur.
Really?
Yeah. And the process from getting the orders to launch was usually no longer than 5 minutes. And once they launch, there's no calling them back.
Right. Yeah, there's quite a few cables coming out of these machines.
And if you look on top of the whole towers over there too, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to our missiles, we could have launched the missiles of another flight like this in case they were incapable. Maybe their building had been destroyed, and vice versa.
I did
They
not
could
know
have
that.
launched ours. And as another backup system, we were part of the Deuce system.
Okay.
We aircraft within a 200-mile radius could have launched the missiles of this flight, and actually the all the missile wings, in case nobody could manually launch their missiles.
Is that something that's only available if the site has gone down? Or could somebody be sitting right here and see their missiles get sent if they, like, for whatever reason?
I do not know that. I suppose it's possible, but I do not know that.
Yeah.
And all missiles would have been sent. They would not have sent, let's send 43 and 48 and 49. All the missiles would have been launched.
Okay.
There was no eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah, and each one of those missiles already has a pre-programmed target
Exactly.
in it. It's not the missile they're just choosing, it's already programmed
Yeah.
in.
And they
Yeah.
would not have known what the
What their
targets
targets were at all. No. Crazy. Yeah.
And there were a couple instances of close calls. One time a training video was left in the system, sort of along the likes of the movie War Games, if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Okay? So they came really close until somebody, whatever part of a system, said, let's take a second look.
Realized it was a mistake. It
Yeah.
was the training video.
Yeah.
I saw a video on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Then over in Russia one time, somebody saw a glint in a cloud. And they thought they were being attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Until a Russian colonel said, let's take a second look. And then they realized it was nothing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's actually been dozens of, like, close call incidences of where nuclear war actually almost started.
yeah.
Yeah, since the 60s, it's probably been like 30 of them total.
Mm-hmm.
There's also been, like, accidents and stuff. Even like in the Grand Forks Air Force Base, they accidentally left 2 nuclear warheads on a bomber plane while it went on a flight, and nobody knew if they were on there. So
Heads
crazy.
rolled.
Yeah.
And if they would have launched the missiles, they would have considered it mission failure, because their mission was to keep the peace. And once you launched, there is no more peace. I like to say, go home and hug your cat and say, hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of downtime when they were here, once they got through their daily stuff. So they came up with different ways to keep themselves entertained. Some of them created an exercise routine, and I guess it's about 80 times around the center stuff here for a mile.
Huh.
Some more painting over here, Bugs Bunny in a Missileers uniform. And they also could have watched TV, again, whatever they were watching upstairs.
In that box right there.
Yep,
All strapped down and everything.
you bet.
Yeah.
In fact, they were supposed to be strapped down, and they were sitting in their chairs. Those are seats from decommissioned bombers. So when
Okay.
they were in their chairs, they had to be strapped in. And so that they didn't have to unstrap every time they needed to do something at the far end of their station, the chairs or the seats are on runners here.
Yeah, that's what the reels are for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, this lovely wallpaper mural, popular back in the 80s, so they didn't have to stare at a perforated wall all day and dream about where they would rather
sure,
be than
right.
50 feet below 30 below zero weather. And I saw you taking the picture of the mural earlier.
Mhm.
Oscar the Grouch is the mascot for Oscar Zero. And Sesame Street was way after my time. I was in Mr. Green Jeans and Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Kind of tells you how old I am. There were 4 channels: CBS, ABC, NBC, and PBS. And you had to get up and walk over to the TV to turn it on and change the channel.
I grew up with like 4 channels for a few years. For a number of years too, living out of town. It was just the rabbit ears.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was 12. We never had color TV, but I was at a friend's house when I was 12 and found out the Wicked Witch in Wizard of Oz was green. I went, whoa! Take a step back.
Yeah.
They were allowed to sleep on shift. They had to take turns. As I said, somebody always had to be in the deputy commander station. So somebody would sleep 2, 3, 4 hours and then they'd switch off.
Okay.
24-hour shift, you have to remain alert because this is a very important job. So
Right.
grab
I noticed the
some.
linens are on the thinner side. Like, would they keep it pretty warm in here? I noticed it's
Yeah,
a little bit,
it was
little bit
pretty warm. I
cool.
mean, it's cool here now, but there's
Yeah.
none of the machineries running.
Right.
So it'd be pretty
Yeah.
warm in here.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
No. These are uniforms donated by missileers who actually served down here. This one, Warren Tobin, currently lives in Jamestown. He also donated the mug that's on the deputy commander, and then one of the locks is his also.
Okay, I saw the name on the mug there. Yeah. The combat crew. Those are some pretty cool patches.
Yeah. Oh, forgetting my. And coming back up here, looking at the back wall of the capsule, there's a round silver hatch door. Can you see it?
Oh, yes, right there. Yeah.
That was the last ditch escape route. To get to it, there's a trapdoor over by the fridge. Climb down below. 7 to 8 feet of space there, which also where food and water supplies would have been kept, you know, in case they were stuck down here. Climb up the wall there, open the door, and get out of the way. The door weighs 500 pounds. It's on a chain and not a hinge, so it's a free-falling door. So you would not want to be in the way of that.
Yeah.
Yep. Then about 30 feet of sand would spill out of the tube, and the
Yeah.
sand is in to keep the tube from collapsing in. And beyond that, several feet of dirt, which they would have had to use a Lance Tech tool to dig out to get to the surface. And it wouldn't be 2 or 3, 4 hours. It might be 2, 3, 4 days before they could get out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And maybe they might not want to get out and see what was or was not going on out there. Because
Yeah.
once they were down here, they might not have any communication upstairs.
Right. I've heard that now if there actually was like a nuclear strike and nuclear war, and say there was a close strike to this facility and the missileers survived, there's actually a designated meetup spot where they were supposed to try and get to
Okay.
after they escaped through the hatch you're talking about there. Now, a number of them realized that they wouldn't actually be able to make it, but that's where they were supposed to go anyways. 'Cause chances are the radiation would take you out, you know, well before you'd actually reach the rendezvous point. But still, that's what their
Yep.
mission was afterwards. But yeah,
Yep.
crazy.
And that's the trap door for below.
Okay.
And you were filming this earlier.
Yes.
The missileers on their last shift as a missileer would sign and date and indicate how many shifts they had served. Scott Livingston, over 300 shifts. And that maybe was not necessarily all here. The guy above him, infinity plus 1. And I would think 1 shift would have felt like forever. And these two were missileers on the last day of activation, July 17th, 1997, almost 24 years ago.
Last man standing, it says there. Yeah. Now the one outside there, I noticed from 77 to 05.
He was a local electrical contractor from Findlay area, and so he helped with electrical maintenance with all the area flights around here. So
Okay.
almost 30 years.
Okay.
And I'm up above here, logo for Grand Forks Air Force Base, Warriors of the North. Sun rays over here, snowflake over here, and I think they should have something for road work, I don't know. But they think the inspiration for the central figure came from a Molly Hatchet album cover.
Oh, really?
I was into Hall & Oates and Barry Manilow. Molly Hatchet was not my taste in music, but I knew they were a band.
Yeah.
So I looked them up online, and it looks to me like it's from their second album, Flirtin' with Disaster.